So the question is, how much does law school really cost? And that's a great question to ask. And truthfully, that answer is also going to help explain how some lawyers who are making $100,000 are actually making less money than some lawyers who are making $60,000. Weird, right? Well, if you have questions, I have answers. Keep watching. Welcome to Law Adventure. My name is Jarrett Stone. If you're new to this channel, then I recommend that you go in the description below. I have some links to some freebies that will be super helpful on your journey to becoming a lawyer. Now, let's talk about why you're here. How much does law school cost? How much is it going to set you back? And truthfully, that answer is really simple. Law school is going to cost you your soul. I'm just kidding. Kind of. So I have to admit, I've been putting off making this video for a while now because the answer to this question, to how much does law school cost, is dependent on so many variables. Whether or not you're going to school that's a public school, that's a private school, whether or not you're going to law school in a big city with the cost of living being through the roof, whether or not you're going to a small school with the cost of living just being pretty minimal, pretty basic, or whether or not you have a scholarship. There's so many variables. So to best answer this question, I did my research. I had to go online, I went through websites, and I figured out what the averages were. And truthfully, a lot of websites, they vary greatly on how much the cost of law school is. So I took those averages and I figured out, using my own experience as well, what a good baseline would be, what these averages would be. So just keep in mind the numbers I'll be giving you, they're rough estimates of how much law school is going to cost for you in particular, but the principle is going to be the same throughout, which is you need to consider these costs before making your decision of one, going to law school, and or two, if you should be going to a particular law school. So enough of that, let's start crunching some numbers. And fortunately, I have it all typed out here on my laptop, so I don't have to try and memorize this and goof and just do a million different takes. Now let's talk about tuition first, because according to US News, the average tuition in order to go to a private law school is about $50,000. The average tuition to go to a public in-state law school, $28,000. Public out-of-state, that'll set you back about $41,000. But keep in mind, and here's the big plot twist, this is all per year. So if you go to a private law school, you're going to be spending $50,000 per year. If you go to public in-state, $28,000 per year. If you go to public out-of-state, you're looking at $41,000 per year. So you basically need to multiply these numbers times 3. That's a lot of money. So what does this all mean? What does this all equal? What this equals is one like below, because I just did all of this without looking at my computer. Just did this in one take. Look at me. There's no way I can keep this pace up, by the way. I'm gonna have to look down below at some point. But the average of all three of these equals $40,000. So that's gonna be the baseline tuition that I'll be using when I break down how much law school actually costs. Because truthfully, you can't say, well, if law school averages out to $40,000 times 3, law school costs $120,000. No, there's so much more to that because you have to factor in other expenses. So let's do that. I'm about to spit out a lot of numbers, so I need to prepare myself. Now let's talk about what lawyers are known for. And if you're thinking of a lawyer joke that's about to insult me, don't. Or if it's really good, leave it in the comments. Lawyers are known for reading, and unfortunately, that means you may have to purchase a ton of books during your law school career. And that can be expensive, unless you watch this video that I have sliding above that walks you through how you can save hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. Now let's just say you don't take my advice in that video and you decide to pay for all these books and you're shelling out all this cash. Well, from what I could tell online and based on my own personal experience in law school, that's gonna set you back about $1,000 per year. I would hope. If you're spending more than that, then you have some pretty rough professors and you're clearly not taking my advice. Go watch the video. Now the next thing I want to talk about is renting. Because in law school, you're most likely renting an apartment or staying in a dorm or renting a room out of a house. And according to apartmentlist.com, the average rent across the nation is about $1,000 per month, which equals $12,000 per year. Now, this may be super cheap for some, or this may be on the pricey side for others. You're gonna have to kind of determine what city you wanna go to law school and then maybe wiggle that number a little bit one way or the other. The final category, living expenses. This includes your utilities, your phone bill, your insurance, and your fund money. Basically everything else in order for you to maintain a certain lifestyle, a certain standard. That's what's hard about giving you an average for this particular category, because everyone has different lifestyles, everyone has different standards. This is a simple fact of life. So I know and recognize that some people ball out and some people are frugal and boring. I'm the latter. And when I give you this average, you may need to bump it up, you may need to bump it down and figure out what's gonna work best for you. But keep in mind, if you're the type that balls out, you may not have the time, because law school is just gonna take so much time out of your day to be able to ball out. But just something to consider. Now, the average based on what I've seen online, based on my own experiences, based on what I've seen from others, it's about $2,000 per month, so about $24,000 per year. So what does this mean? Well, you take this expense plus the other expenses, you add that into the average tuition, and that's how much you're going to need each year in order to basically get through law school for that particular year. That's a lot of numbers, but on average, you're gonna end up spending about $77,000 per year. Keep in mind, law school is 3 years, so you're gonna have to spend $231,000 on average in law school. Wait, actually, that's not right, because most people actually, there's a lot of actuallys in there, take a loan out for each of those years. So the question at this point is, how much is law school gonna cost you at the end of your loan payments, 10 years after you graduate? That's the real number of how much law school is gonna cost you. So we need to figure that out. I think it's safe to say that a lot of people are gonna have to end up paying for law school by using loans. Nothing wrong with that, that's what I had to do. And I also think it's safe to say that not a lot of people have $231,000 in their pocket in order to pay for all of law school. And truthfully, I don't even know if they make pockets that big. But what's important for those who are having to take loans out, and I didn't know this, is that as soon as you take the loan out, as soon as you apply the loan in order to pay for a year of law school or a semester of law school, interest starts accruing. Now, you may not have to pay the principal and or the interest until typically 6 months after you graduate, but interest is accruing and that puppy's getting bigger. And I had no idea. Whenever I've made my first payment, whenever the time came, that 6 months after graduation, I expected the principal to be the exact same amount. Nope. What ended up happening is something called interest capitalization, where the interest after the 3 years of accruing ended up being put back into the principal amount, and then that new just heightened principal amount on steroids ended up accruing interest once I started making payments at that point in time. Something to consider, because just more of a side note, you may want to start making payments towards your interest in law school. But that's a side note, and we'll maybe flesh that out a little bit later in this video. But for now, I want to dive into basically some numbers when it comes to loans to figure out how much law school is going to cost you if you decide to take loans out. Now, I'll also be honest with you, I'm not going to even try and impress you by memorizing the numbers I'm about to read from this computer, because no one has the time for that. So let's just go ahead and dive in. So your loan number one is going to cost you $77,000, because that's the average per year you'll need for tuition and to live. And the interest you'll accrue over 3 years, because law school's 3 years, is about $15,708. Keeping in mind that I'm gonna go ahead and average the loan interest rates at about 6.8. Now, if you're watching this video way into the future, you may need to double check and make sure that interest rate is on par with what's going on in the year 2030. But as of right now, the average is around 6.8 and the interest rates have been climbing. So keep that in mind. Now, the second year loan, again, $77,000, you'll get about $10,472 of interest that you'll have to pay. Loan 3, again, $77,000 plus an additional $5,236 of interest that is accruing during that 3 or so years span. So that ends up being $231,000 in tuition, or just overall living expenses plus tuition, plus the $31,416 in interest, meaning that upon graduation, you owe $262,416. That is a lot of money. So if we take the $262,416 of debt that you've accumulated upon graduation, you then have to factor in the 10-year repayment plan that is pretty standard. And so if you take the full 10 years in order to pay back that amount, here's how much you'll end up paying in total. Here's how much law school will have cost you 10, or I guess 13 years from starting law school. The magic number, $362,387. That's how much law school will cost on average. If you've accumulated this much law school debt, you need to keep in mind that you're gonna end up spending $3,000 per month to pay off each loan payment over a 10-year span. That is just gonna be absolutely brutal. So to make this a little bit more concrete, if you've accumulated this much debt, you are basically burning $36,000 per year of your salary to pay off your loans. So if you're making $100,000, in reality, you're making $64,000. Actually, you're making less because taxes, but we'll push taxes aside for easy math. US News says on average, in the private sector, somebody makes about $72,500. That comes out to about $6,000 per month. If you're in the average situation, the problem there is half your salary is gonna go towards student loans. If you're in the public sector, let's say you're a prosecutor, US News says that on average, a prosecutor or somebody in the public sector makes around $54,000. That's $4,500 per month, excluding taxes. And that means that you will only have $1,500 to do, I don't know, pay rent, which apparently costs $1,000, and to have $500 of fund money. There really isn't much wiggle room there at all. So I'm not trying to scare you away from going to law school. I'm not trying to make you depressed if you are in law school. Instead, I just want to put in perspective what you need to do at this point in time. Because if you're watching this video, you're most likely thinking about going to law school, and you most likely want to figure out if law school is right for you. So at this point in time in your career, in your life, you need to just make sure your GPA is as high as can be. You need to go and knock out the LSAT, and you need to make sure that you use those two factors in order to get a scholarship. It helps so much to have a scholarship. That's money that is going to not only save you the scholarship amount, but it'll also save you the interest that would potentially accumulate over 13 years. Now, if you have any questions on how to increase your scholarship offer or get a scholarship offer, here's a video of mine. I highly recommend it. It's super helpful. It's a trick I use in order to get more scholarship money and to get it to where it wasn't based on contingency. And that is a danger. If you get a scholarship based on contingency, that can actually make your situation worse and you probably would have been better off not having a scholarship at all and going to a different school. If you don't know what I mean by that, be sure to watch this video I have sliding above. I have a lot of videos that are all coming together at once right now. Also keep in mind that once you're in law school, it's your time to go kill it. And once you do kill it, once your grades are awesome, once you're able to maybe compete in mock trial and competitions, have that beefed up resume and then submit it in order to get more scholarship money. Take all the scholarships, all of it. And once you end up making more money, more scholarship money, then at that point in time, hopefully all your loans will be paid. And if you can do that during your law school career, if you can save yourself from having to spend the extra 10 years of your life just shelling out money, you're gonna be much happier, and it's gonna give you flexibility in choosing which job you wanna take. Because if you are, above average and taking the job that pays $100,000, that's a great line of work, but there's a lot of work and a lot of hours you have to put into that kind of job. Those are typically your big law jobs. And if you're not getting big law payments at the end of the day because your loans are having to dig into that, then you might not be very happy. You might not feel very rewarded about going to law school and accumulating those loans. Also, and here's a big note, be sure to go to the right law school. It sometimes is a little bit easier to go to a lesser tiered law school that is going to be much less expensive. It's going to be expensive no matter where you go. But if you go to the lesser tier that's much less expensive, again, that gives you more flexibility whenever you actually are going out in the real world and you're trying to find the right job that will not only maybe pay for the little loans you have by going to a less expensive route, but you can maybe choose a job that you enjoy a bit more. And it gives you, just like I said, that flexibility. We got kind of deep there, so if you have any questions about my philosophy when it comes to paying student loans or choosing a law school, or just the numbers that we crunched today, be sure to leave those in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful, be sure to give it a thumbs up. That support is always fantastic for this channel. Don't forget to click subscribe. I'll see you on the next video.